Hey guys, I am here today doing the 21 books I want to read in 2021. So I've seen quite a few of these videos going around, and this is actually something I've wanted to do. I've seen a lot of people looking back over the books they aim to read this year. I didn't start my channel until the start of 2020, so I wanted to do it for 2021 and it should be fun. So I've got 21 books, not necessarily new books coming out, just books that are on my TBR or will be on my TBR, and I desperately want to read them because they've either been on my TBR for such a ridiculously long time, I need to get rid of them, or they're new, hyped, and I just didn't get to them. So I'm going to go straight through them, and the first book that I want to begin with is Heartbreak Boys by Simon James Green. A lot of people have been talking about this. This is, as far as I'm aware, two boys have gone through breakups. They decide to get together in order to seem over the breakup, and then it continues. Now, I love Simon James Green. He's one of my favourite authors, and I want to read all of his work. Hence, Heartbreak Boys. Next, I want to read History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I am an Adam Silvera stan, and I just need to read every book he's ever got. I have purchased or have been gifted all of his books, and now I just need to read them. I don't really know what this one's about. I know it is about a young boy who has lost his partner, and his partner has passed away, and I don't really know anything other than that. I like going into Adam Silvera's books with as little information as possible. Because they always take me on an emotional roller coaster, and I feel like this book is going to be no different. The third book I want to read in 2021 is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This entire series was gifted to me for my birthday by my friend Kira, and a lot of people have read this book. A lot of people tell me it's an amazing book, an amazing series, and I really need to read it. It sounds like something I'm really interested in. I am really interested in the concept of death and death as a person, as an entity, and the fact that there is a scythe that controls death because no one naturally dies anymore. I find that really interesting. I want to read more about it. Bring in the now, fourthly, I read The Shining this year for Horror-a-thon Christmas edition, and I want to read Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining. I have kind of recently discovered that I'm not the biggest fan of Stephen King's works, but I've also learned that I really like his works when they're published after 2000 because I feel as though his writing style is much more towards my type of writing style and the things I enjoy more. And this book was I don't even know when this book was published. I'm looking. This book was published in 2013, so it's got more chance of me liking it because I wasn't really the biggest fan of The Shining, but I really want to read Doctor Sleep. So hopefully if I can get that done, that will be a series that I have closed, and it means I've read another Stephen King book that was written post 2000. Next, I'm desperate to read Middle Game by Shauna Maguire. I don't know anything about this. This was gifted to me by Kat from Brews and Reviews for my birthday, and all I know about this is it is about two twins called Roger and Dodger who were separated at birth, and then they find out they can communicate with each other via telepathy. That is literally all I know. I don't want to know more. I want to go into this entirely blind, and I'm so excited to read it. It's been one of those books that seems like it shouldn't be something I'd be interested in. Like, it's classed as, I think, sci-fi fantasy. Or I don't really know. I think it's basically mostly sci-fi, and that's not really something I'm ever interested in. But that is something I'm interested in, and I'm desperate to get this book read in 2021. Next is a book I don't actually own yet. I have it as a pre-order, and that is The Archive of the Forgotten by A.J. Hackworth. This is the sequel to The Library of the Unwritten. Many of you will know if you have been on this channel for like more than 10 seconds. I love that book, and I'm obsessed with this series and these characters, and I can't wait to get to this sequel. I am rereading the first book just before the second one comes out. I'm ready, I'm excited, and I'm desperate to see where the characters go from the end of the first book. Next, I'm back with Stephen King, and I want to read 11/22/63. This is a story that's freaking massive, so really, I am quite scared, but I'm really interested in it. I find things like assassinations really interesting and major events. I find them really interesting, especially when there's a bit of a conspiracy around it. I always find conspiracy theories interesting. But this is a time travel story about I think he's an English teacher, and he goes back in time to try and stop the assassination of JFK. And then I think it's all about like the butterfly effect on if this happened, then what happens there. If this happens, then this changes this. And I love that. I love a time travel story about things like that. So I'm desperate to read this. The only reason I've not is because it's quite a chonker. But other than that, there is no excuse for me not to read it. And I desperately Moving on, there is a book that I should have read a long time ago. People keep badgering me to read it. I actually have an arc of the third book in the series, and I have not read the first one yet. And that is Sweet Pea by CJ Skuse. I have Sweet Pea, I have In Bloom, and I have an arc of Deadhead, and I've pre-ordered the physical copy, but I've not read Sweet Pea yet. And everyone, all of these people that I really trust with thrillers, all of my favourite booktubers who I would trust with thrillers, because a lot of people trust me, just saying, but all the people I would trust and who I would go to for thrillers tell me I need to read this. And for some reason I just keep not doing. And I don't know why, but I really, really want to. So I'm going to get this read. I have to get it read because the arc I have needs to be read before the publication date. I want to keep ahead of my arc, so I need to read it. And the book comes out in, I think, February. So I need to read these 3 in January or February. I can do it. I will do it. Now, taking a little bit of a turn, I want to read Dear Evan Hansen next. I love the music from the musical. This is based on a musical, in case you didn't know. This story follows a young boy called Evan Hansen, who is very socially awkward. He has really bad anxiety, and he writes messages to himself to constantly tell himself why it's going to be a good day, to really try and improve his mental health and make himself feel better. Then a young boy who he goes to school with takes his own life, and one of Evan's notes is found with the body. People then assume that the note was a suicide note and that the young boy wrote it to Evan, who they think is his best friend. Instead of denying the family closure because they didn't get a suicide note from their son, Evan pretends that he was best friends with this young boy and things spiral out of control. And it's really about how his one act and lying really got him into a sticky situation despite the fact that he was just trying to do the right thing. Now, this was a musical, and then they wrote a book based on the musical, and it just sounds so good. I haven't seen the musical, but I'm obsessed with the music, and I can't wait to see it once we're allowed back into theatres. So I desperately want to read And now I want to read a book by Linwood Barclay. I want to read Trust Your Eyes. I love Linwood Barclay. There is no reason why I have not read this book yet, and I think it's literally the only book of his that I've not read. He has a new book out in February, and I think I'm even going to read that before I read this, because I'm reading that book, I think, in January or at the very, very start of February. And for some reason, this is the one book of his that I have yet to read, and I really, really need to get to it. So I'm going to be reading this because it's about time that I did it. I don't know what this is about. It says, map-obsessed Thomas spends his days and nights on a virtual tour of the world, believing he must store the details of every town and city in his head. Then one day he sees something that shouldn't be there, a woman being murdered behind a window on a New York street. When Thomas tells his brother Ray what he has witnessed, Ray humours him with a half-hearted investigation, until he realises Thomas may have stumbled on a deadly conspiracy, which puts them both in danger. It sounds good. Why haven't I read it? I am stupid. That is why. I'm going to be reading this. Next, I want to read Infinity Son by Adam Silvera. I don't know anything about this. All I know is it's Adam Silvera's first fantasy. A lot of people don't seem to like it, but I want to read it because it's Adam Silvera and I'm really excited. I don't know why people don't like it. I've kind of convinced myself that people don't like it because it's not good for a typical fantasy. But I'm not someone who reads fantasy. So maybe I will like it because I'm not missing anything. If this is missing fantasy elements that people enjoy, I don't read fantasy. I won't be missing anything. That's as much as I know. That's as much as I'm guessing. I'm desperate to read it. Next, I want to read Sapphire, Princess Among Beasts by James Patterson and Emily Raymond. This is a story about a princess called Sapphire who is tasked with taking care of her kingdom and defending it against the beasts. This is as much as I know. I think it's one of the first main fantasies James Patterson's ever written. I don't really know anything about it. That's as much as I know. It's about this girl trying to defend her kingdom. That's as much as I know. But I want to read it. It sounds good. And I think it's a YA. But it sounds good. And I'm really interested. Then I want to read The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. I read Twilight when it came out, and then I read The Host, and I absolutely loved it. The thing with Twilight is it's like a vampire romance book. The Host was a sci-fi romance book. This is apparently a thriller romance book. So this is the one I should have read from Stephenie Meyer first, and I didn't. I bought it. I bought this when Midnight Sun was announced, because I remember it arrived on the day Midnight Sun was announced. And I haven't read it yet. I don't know why. So I need to push myself to read it, because I enjoyed Stephenie Meyer's Twilight series. Did not read Midnight Sun. Do not plan on reading Midnight Sun. And I loved The Host. So I'm kind of hoping I love this one as well, because it's a thriller, it's romance, and I really did enjoy Stephenie Meyer's other work. So then I'm going to read a book people are going to yell at me for, and I know, and I'm sorry, but I do want to read it. The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Everyone keeps telling me that I shouldn't read this book. Believe me, I know, you don't need to tell me. I've heard it 9 million times before. People tell me it's really bad. They tell me it's very phobic to a lot of people and sexist and fatphobic, and like, I know, trust me, I know, I've been told. But when people tell you you shouldn't read it because it's not good, it makes you want to read it to form your own opinion. And look, it's sprayed edges, it looks pretty. Maybe I will read this and I will absolutely despise the book. But I want to read it. So I'm going to read it. Like I'm going to. No amount of pressuring me not to is going to make me not read it. I understand. Like, a lot of people have just said, don't waste your time, it's not worth it. And it's probably right. It probably will not be worth my time. I will probably DNF it, but I want to give it a go. Because when people all have this very strong opinion, I want to get my own. I don't want to just trust everyone's opinion. Like, I love trusting people's opinions, but I also want to form my own. So that is the case with this book. So please don't yell. Please don't tell me not to read it, because I'm going to, and your attempts at stopping me is futile. Then I'm going into a book that I've been putting off for such a long time, and that is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I bought this book when it was £2 on Amazon, and then I never read it. I kind of set this book up as a buddy read with Brooke, and both of us kind of don't want to read it, but we want to read it just because we've bought the book and we're begrudging buying a book if we're never going to read it. So now it's become a matter of principle that we're going to read this damn book. But we just keep putting off a buddy read. But I know that if I read it, she will never read it. And she knows that if she reads it, I will never read it. We have to read it together to push ourselves through it. So really it's just a case of finding a time for us both to read it where we're not really busy or bogged down with other buddy reads or, things like that. So that's why I've not done it yet. But I'm determined to get this book read in 2021. Then I'm back to James Patterson, and I want to read NYPD Red. This is a book series. There are 5 out, and I want to read this. This is one of the series of James Patterson that I haven't started yet. I've collected all the books, but I've not started them, and I'm hoping I will start this once I close off another one of the series. Maybe Alex Cross, maybe a series that is not even a James Patterson one, maybe just a series like Gone or The Shadowhunters, or something like that. I want to read this, but I'm making sure not to open any new series until I've closed my other series. Another story I desperately want to read in 2021 is The Poet X by Elizabeth Azevedo. I don't know why I've not done it. It should be very easy. It's written in verse, so it's going to be one of those that's a quick read, and apparently it's so good. But for some reason I just keep putting it off, and I think that's because I'm not used to books written in verse. I don't think I've ever read a book written in verse. If I have, I don't remember. So this is one I desperately want to read. I also want to read Clap When You Land. So yeah, I just need to really push myself to pick up a book that's written in verse and just get through it. And I think I can. I feel like this is going to be one of those books that I can read very quickly in a day and really enjoy it. The only reason I've just not is because I think I'm just not used to the verse writing style, and I'm a bit... Now, the next story I want to read, I was gifted for my birthday from the lovely Steph from Steph Loves, and that is This Is Where It Ends by Marika Nijkamp. This is a story about a school shooting, and I'm desperate to read it. Yeah, I'm desperate to read it. This has been on my radar for so long. I had it in my wish list for ages, ready to buy, and then the lovely Steph gifted it to me anyway. and now it's sat in my book cart, and I keep looking at it like I'm desperate to pick it up, but I've just been bogged down with so many like buddy reads or readathons or books I need to get done by the end of the year, books I'm doing for other videos, and it always just gets pushed to the sideline. So I'm making this a priority because I desperately want to get this one done in 2021, hopefully very early in 2020. Then I'm going to be reading a BookTube favourite, The Invisible Life of Adaroo by V.E. Schwab. This is a story, as I'm sure everyone is aware by now, but I will tell you just in case you do not know. This is a story about a girl called Adaroo who decides she doesn't want to live her life with the rules of other people anymore. She wants to live for her. So she makes a deal with, I think he's like a demon or something like that. I don't know. Everyone says the devil, but apparently it's not the devil, and it's quite a big thing that it's not the devil, so I don't know. But she makes a deal with a demon to grant her immortality so that she can live for herself. She gets immortality, but the cost of that is nobody remembers she exists. Until one day, somebody does. And that's what this story is about. Apparently it's very character driven, it's very slow, and that's not usually my kind of thing, which is probably why I've not picked it up yet. Also, it's been very hyped at the moment. I don't like reading books when they're too hyped because I feel as though I'm always under pressure to like it as much as everyone else. So, kind of took a bit of a step back. It's been a few months now. I'm going to try read it. I'm hoping to read this in January actually, because Siobhan and I set this up as a buddy read. So we're going to be reading this in January. That'll be great. Hopefully that'll be read. And I'm very excited to actually get this one read. This is another series I want to start, so I probably need to close off another one. And that is A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I also need to read the sequel, A Heart So Fierce and Broken. And then A Vow So Bold and Deadly also comes out, and I need to read that one as well. This is an absolutely stunning book. This was gifted to me by Steph from Steph Loves, and I just haven't read it yet because I've opened a few fantasy things. I just haven't really forced myself into it a bit more, if I'm honest. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I need to just push myself to do it. I just think they look so pretty, and I'm always scared of picking them up and not liking them, because then they have to come off my shelf, and I'm looking at them like, oh, but they look so stunning on my shelf. So I think that's why I keep putting them off, which is a ridiculous reason to put it off. So I'm going to be reading these in 2021. And the final book I desperately want to get to in 2021 is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I am desperate to read this book series. I have book 1, 2 and 3. Book 4 is coming out next year as well, so I hope to get that and read that. And everyone keeps telling me I'm going to love these. This is a YA mystery thriller. Why am I not reading this? This is the book that summarizes my entire channel. It is my book, and I've still not read it. And it is ridiculous that I've not read it, but I'm desperate to read it, so I'm going to force myself to read it and the rest of the series. But again, I want to finish off a few of the series I have open before I do it, because I don't want to have too many series open. And I feel as though once I read this, I will then binge book 2 and 3 immediately after, because I'll just have to know what happens. And everyone seems to love it, and I'm really excited to read them. And that's it. They are the 21 books I want to read in 2021. Have you guys read any of these books? If so, let me know which ones you think I need to prioritize. If not, you can also drop me down a comment and let me know what you're going to be reading, because I would love to know what you're going to be reading. If anyone out there is going to be reading any of these books, please feel free to let me know, because I will always be happy to set up a buddy read reading these. And that is it from me, guys. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you leave me a like and a comment, because like I said, I love hearing from you guys, and I want to know what you're going to be reading in 2021. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.
SafeMusicList.com. Royalty-free music for marketing and